All right. Bismillah, alhamdulillah, salatu ma rasulullah, nashhadu an la ilaha illallah, nashhadu anna Muhammad Rasulullah, wa salli wa sallim barik ala nabiyyina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa sallim taslima kathira. Again, Jazakallah khair for everybody that's joined us and everybody that is a part of this webinar or watching us live on Facebook. Uh, my name is Brother Rami Kawas, Executive Director of Oak Tree Institute. I'm excited to be diving into this webinar with you all today about how to plan some guidance and some advice about how to plan most effectively for the month of Ramadan. Before we get started, I want to just take a few minutes to talk to everybody about who we are at Oak Tree Institute. I know you're joining our webinar, but just a reminder about who we are and what we do and why this webinar is an important part of our work. So at Oak Tree Institute, we're a nonprofit organization that's focused on leadership and organizational development for the Muslim community. Our prime focus is to support and develop and equip leaders serving in Muslim institutions and to help their nonprofit organizations grow and excel as well. And alhamdulillah, we have a variety of different services and programs and initiatives that we have to support organizations. And I'm very proud to say we've worked with over 250 different nonprofit organizations in our community. We've served large organizations, small organizations, community-based organizations, and really everything in between. And really our goal and our intent is to allow this impact that leaders make and our organizations make, to allow our leaders to make that impact in their communities, to make that impact in the institutions that they serve in by supporting them through development, through advice, through training, through consultation, and such. So today, inshallah, I'm excited for us to be launching a webinar. We do this yearly, but I think this year more than other years, it's really important to kind of begin the process of planning for one of the most important times for all our organizations, which is the month of Ramadan. And hence we titled this webinar, How to Plan for the Month of Ramadan, how to plan for Ramadan, and how to think about creating strategies and effective teamwork for the institutions that we work in, for the communities that we lead, for the organizations that we lead. So I want you first and foremost to begin by think with me about, we're going to talk about why Ramadan is important and how to do Ramadan as most effectively as possible. But I want to begin by having us all think about what is the typical Ramadan experience? What is Ramadan typically about? Right? So reflect on that if you're listening in. If you're able, for those that are a few people that are in the webinar, I'd love to hear in the chat window, tell me a little bit about what is a typical Ramadan experience for you? What are the things that happen when you're experiencing Ramadan in the community? So I'd love if you all can share some thoughts or reflections, and I have a few, about what that typical experience is like. I'll give everybody just a minute to reflect on what is the Ramadan experience like. So when you think of the Ramadan experience in our community, what comes to mind? As folks are about to share, what comes to my mind is people going to the Masjid. There's a lot of people. There's prayer that's involved. There's a sense of large community, difficult parking. There's this idea of, well, we're fasting and we're going to be running to Taraweeh. There's an expectation of, trying to hear a nice reminder that reconnects you to something. Sometimes those reminders aren't necessarily congruent. They're not connected in any way. But sometimes they're pretty good. Sometimes they're better than others. We think of sometimes this organization, like, I'm not sure what's happening. Where do I go? What's happening next? Is there any thoughtfulness to what the program is like? What time I should be coming? Is there anything that I should be doing or volunteering or supporting? And I'm not sure. I think the typical Ramadan experience in most communities is a few things that I just communicated. There's this moment of wanting to go to a masjid, wanting to go to a center, wanting to feel like there's something going on, and it's usually a lot more than normal. But outside of that, not much more. However, then the question becomes, and I'd love to hear from those in the webinar, what creates an outstanding Ramadan experience? So if you compare that typical experience to what's an outstanding experience that you've had, whether you've had those experiences or you would potentially think about a greater experience of Ramadan, what would that look like? So somebody says, well, bringing in more volunteers. Okay, I like that. Um, Potentially more volunteers coming in. Um, a lot of, the typical experience is a lot of people doing a lot of work. Yeah, so people kind of being burnt out is a part of the typical experience. Looking to understand how to motivate others. So there's an element of like, in a typical experience, we're trying to figure out how do we motivate others? How do we get others to be engaged? Um, yeah, we're always scrambling. In a typical experience, we're always scrambling to find someone that's a teacher or someone that can help. Good. So, okay, good. So those are some of the typical experiences. So in a great experience, what happens in a great experience? So what is an outstanding experience in the community of Ramadan like? So someone says connecting to Allah Azza wa Jal, like this strong spiritual connection that happens. That's really good reflection. There's a peacefulness. So one brother says there's a peacefulness to the masjid, to the center, to the work. There's a peacefulness to the organization, to the culture, to the environment. That's a really good reflection as well. Yeah, and an outstanding experience. There's a peace and a calmness to everything. Someone says there's a strong connection to the Quran. I like that. There's this this intentionality to what's happening in the Ramadan experience. There's a connection to the Quran. There's a great reciter. I feel like I'm learning and reconnecting to the Quran. There's programs or events happening that are helping me reconnect. There's an experience when I go into a community that I'm feeling this strong connection in different ways outside of just having it recited and different ways of connecting. There's unity. I like that. That's a really good one. Yeah, there's this community feeling. It's not just that there's a lot of people in the building, but there's this idea of unity, this sense of like connectingness to one another. That's a really good reflection as well. There's physical and mental health. I like that there's this consciousness, like a great experience in the communities that people are really thinking about my well-being, um, connecting with each other, caring for each other, thinking about our physical well-being, what we're eating. Are we conscious of our health? Are we supporting each other in that, in a community? There's an increased taqwa level. That's a really good one as well, Brother Vincent. There's a idea like, hey, I'm connecting strongly to Allah Azza wa Jalla. There's this sense of spirituality, right? Those are outstanding. I would echo all of those, right? Some of the outstanding experiences are really, there's a lot more to Ramadan than the traditional, right? There's a lot more that we want to feel, that we want to experience, that we want to happen in a community when we're having Ramadan. And so we want, as community leaders, community organizers, board members, leaders, executive teams, board of directors, like we want to make Ramadan special. I think this is the heart of this webinar. Is like, it's really important to make Ramadan special. It's a special month, right? We know its blessings, and I'm sure we all will hear a lot of reminders about the blessings of Ramadan and the increased mercy, and Allah Azza wa Jalla has chosen it, and right. There's so many reasons why Ramadan is special, but we as Muslim leaders have to make Ramadan special, right? We have to make it feel extraordinary in our communities. And I think for us, and this is kind of the heart, and I'll dive into the heart of this webinar. The heart of making Ramadan special is that we, as the volunteers, as the leaders, we want to be intentional about how we do that. Like there's strategy, there's steps that we can take to make Ramadan special in our community, to make Ramadan special in our organizations. And I think sometimes we don't walk in with all of those things in mind as leaders, right? Like we walk in and Ramadan, we know Ramadan is like the peak of community involvement, the peak of community engagement, the peak of spirituality, the peak of brotherhood and sisterhood, the peak of attendance, the peak of Jum'ah, the peak of donating, all of the peak of, taqwa and connectedness to Allah. It's peak. But I don't think communities and organizations show up at their peak performance. I don't think a lot of times, like, leaders are showing up at their best and organizations are showing up at their best in how we lead and how our teams show up and how we're managed and how we communicate. And so there's this natural tension that happens that, well, everybody else is performing at this high level, but the institutions themselves are not ready to meet that high level of performance. And hence, that's why I think this is the heart of this webinar, is that I want to talk through some critical strategies and some critical things our teams can do and our organizations can do and our leaders can do to make sure that our institutions are able to meet that peak performance that our community is going to be at, that our community members are going to be at, that the environment and the culture of the ummah is at, right? It's got to be able to match it so that there's this amazing experience that's created in our masjids, in our centers, and such. So what are those strategies? Like, what are I at least I consolidated into 5 critical tips, tricks, steps that communities need to take to make Ramadan special for their institution. Okay. And this is, again, outside of just the typical spiritual stuff we hear about. Like, what are the tactical strategies that we can implement? So, and I'll talk to each one, and I'd love to hear if there's any comments or reflections around each one, inshallah ta'ala, as we go through them. So where do we start? Where does a community center, a masjid, where does it start to make a Ramadan special, to create this amazing experience? Where do we start? Well, first and foremost, to me, we start by creating a team, right? We gotta have the importance of a team that's ready to perform all the things that are needed for Ramadan to be successful, right? We've got to create a team. And outside of just saying, okay, well, make a team, create a team, I'm going to say what most organizations don't do in this first step is the 2 words that I chose. Number one, every institution should start to consolidate its teams. Now, a lot of times, typically, like in most organizations, the typical organization, you have a board, you have like an executive team or directors that are doing things. Then you have a bunch of volunteers, right? Their staff, volunteers, people that are doing things. In Ramadan, what we want to do is consolidate all of those layers. We don't want all those layers. We don't want a board acting as a typical board. We don't want an executive team or a board of directors acting like a typical board of directors. We don't want staff and volunteers acting like it's a normal time of the year. It's very important that we consolidate the organization. We consolidate teams for Ramadan. And specifically, we want to consolidate, and then we want to form a particular type of team. And the type of team that I'm kind of communicating here is a diverse team. Okay, so what do I mean by that? So number one, formulate a Ramadan task force, right? The first step is, in Ramadan, we are not going to operate like we operate outside of Ramadan. It's a different time. It's a different season. So what we want to do is create one task force that is like the lead task force or the lead committee or the lead team that's going to be in charge of Ramadan. It's not our typical thing. It's not our typical board, this, that, or the other. No, we want to consolidate. And even, by the way, if you're not a masjid or community center, maybe you're a service organization, or maybe you're another kind of organization, I would also encourage you to consolidate as well. Don't operate, your structural operation shouldn't be the same as it is in Ramadan as it is outside of Ramadan. Think differently about how you're structured. Create a task force that is focused on this particular season. That task force should be diverse. It should be representative of every segment of your organization and your community. So I would say an ideal task force for a masjid would be a few board members, an executive body, executive team members or board of directors, that we're going to assign, particularly to the month of Ramadan. And then some critical staff and volunteers. They're going to be very important, right? I want to make sure that there's a good amalgamation or creation of different aspects of our organization, and also different aspects of our community. Because think about it, if we're doing a community program in Ramadan and a kids program, and there's the adults program, and maybe some other things that we're doing, we want a diverse representation on this Ramadan task force from every segment of the community, right? We don't want the Ramadan task force only men or only certain age, right? We want, well, our community's got men and women. We want to make sure there's diversity there. We got young and old. We want to make sure that there's diversity on this team. We want, there's different focus groups or different programs that are happening. We want everybody to be representatives, each segment of the community to have a voice on this task force, right? This is very important. So create a task force, create a unique team that's focused on Ramadan, step number one. Step number two, make sure you kind of consolidate that team. Number two, make sure it's diverse. Different parts of your organization are on the task force. Different segments of your community are on this task force, right? So we want to be very representative of all the different aspects that are going to serve the community in Ramadan. And last but not least is we want to create clarity of the team, what everybody's role and responsibility will be. It's almost as if, this step one is almost as if I'm saying your masjid or your institution is going to create almost like a new organization for Ramadan. Because again, Ramadan is it's 30 days of events, large events. It's like a convention that's 30 days. And you want to understand, like, look, our normal operations of how we work as a team, it's not going to meet the need. We've got to be able to think and structure ourselves differently to be able to serve the high level of work that's required at this peak time of year. So consolidate, create a task force, consolidate together, be diverse, make sure you're hearing the voices of every aspect of your community. Different parts of your organization are coming together to create this task force. And then finally, create clarity of everybody's role. What is everybody's role going to be, right? Because we're going to start to build out teams under this task force, and everybody needs a clear role. So maybe you're the director of, somebody's going to be leading the main salah. Somebody's going to be leading the youth and kids. Somebody's going to be leading the masjid services. Somebody's going to be leading XYZ. Like, we're going to be representative to be clear on all the different tasks aspects that they're going to do. So it's, I would say, step number one, right? This really important idea of coming and making a unified team that's going to be serving and working in the month of Ramadan. That's step number one. I don't see any questions for those that are on the webinar. I'd love to hear from you all. If you have any questions or anything that you want to add, please put them in the Q&A feature on the Zoom platform, and then inshallah, I will definitely get to them. I want to say that in my entire experiences of leading Ramadan and working in community centers in Ramadan, when there has been this task force created, those Ramadans have always been extraordinary. Like, there's always been this added level of excellence in our work and how we serve the community. And when, this team doesn't get created and everybody's still doing and operating the same way, so many things fall apart because nobody knows who's responsible for what, who's doing what, who's doing the donate, who's doing the 27th night, who's raising funds, who's doing the banquet, who's leading salah, who's choosing the imam, who's speaking the khatiras. Like, there's this complete disorganization when we as institutions try to operate the same way we do outside of Ramadan as we do inside of Ramadan, right? So it's a major red flag and a major first step that every institution needs to take on. Okay, I have quite a few more things that I want to mention. So, but after, so I'll get to the second one, but after we create the team, usually what happens is that you get all these, okay, we're going to create a task force. We got this team ready for Ramadan. And then all of a sudden everybody's like, boom, let's start working. Okay, you do this, you do this, you do this. We're very like solution oriented, action oriented, which is really good. But before you start to just plan and take action, what I would love, and by the way, we're about 45 days out of Ramadan, so we have plenty of time to do the second step. And honestly, only excellent organizations do the second step, like really organizations that are trying to operate at another level of professionalism. The second step is taking the moment before you start to plan to assess. Take a moment to assess. Like, oh my God, what do you mean? What do you mean, brother? What do you mean by assess? We gotta get things done. There's only 45 days. We gotta start planning. Well, okay, I know. I think I gotta start planning, but hear me out first. Why don't you take the time, just a few, you know, days, weeks, to assess what happened last year? Why don't we take a moment to just reflect on, well, what went well last year and what didn't? Do we have any notes? Do we have any assessments done? Do we have any, and most of the time, a lot of organizations have not written anything down. They have no documented, like, okay, here's where the good things, here's where the weaknesses, here's where the problems, here's where the challenges. Like a lot of times, a lot of organizations don't. And by the way, I'm going to say this at the end, good organizations do. They spend time after Ramadan debriefing and assessing the good and the bad, the pros and the cons after Ramadan or after really any event. But if you don't, so if you do have that, go back to last year's Ramadan. What worked well for your masjid or your organization? What didn't work well? What were the pros? What were the strengths? What were the weaknesses? What did not work? And then take a moment to ask why. Right? Don't just say, okay, well, yeah, the Ramadan wasn't organized. Yeah, the reception was poor. Yeah, parking was crazy. But take a moment to ask yourself, well, why was it that? Was it, well, there was no volunteers that helped in parking? Was it, well, we didn't train reception on how to handle the 30 days of crowd management? We didn't have an MC that talked to the community every day. We didn't have an organization, an organized chart of speakers for every day of thought. Like, analyze the why. Don't just say the problem. Discuss as a team why that problem existed. And also, if things did go well, like, wait, we had an amazing Ramadan schedule of speakers. Why? Well, we had a spreadsheet and we had one person that was the point of contact and they reached out to all the speakers. And so you have to just, don't just say what was good, say why it was good. Analyze the reasons why, because those will really help you in making sure that if something worked last year, do it again this year. Like, repeat success. Don't try to reinvent the wheel, right? If something worked really well, do it again. Think about who did it. Think about why they, even if that person is not around anymore, what did they do that made the program successful or made the management of that initiative successful? Reflect on that. And if there was something wrong or something poor or something didn't work out, absolutely take the time to think about the why as well. Well, there was no leader. Nobody managed it. Nobody oversaw it. Nobody understood their role. And again, make sure that's a part of your plan for the year. Now, here's the last thing as well on this phase. And I don't think very few masjid institutions that I've ever seen, alhamdulillah, I'm proud to say I've been a part of a few, that they took their assessment before Ramadan even deeper. In that they just didn't go back to the problems of last year, which is fine, it's good. But they also went out to the community before Ramadan to ask them what they want. Imagine that. Imagine we serve the community and we ask them ahead of time what they want in Ramadan. Imagine that idea. Like that, I believe, to take a moment to just reflect on this. We sometimes just think we know everything about our community, we just do it. And we're not really servant leaders until we take the time to understand, what are the needs out there? What do people need? What's happening? So, you know, we ask the community, hey, how many times are you planning to come to Ramadan? If you want iftar, how many days would you want iftar? Would you come to iftar? Are you going to bring your kids? Are you going to bring do you have toddlers? Do you have children? Do you have youth? Are you planning a carpool or park? There's certain questions that we can ask and solicit and gain feedback and gain data on, so that our plans are much more effective. We sometimes go into planning so blind, we have no idea. It's so like in somebody's head, where somebody says this, somebody thinks this, but we don't really know. And we should just take the time so that when we start to plan and make decisions, we're making them more intentional. We're making them with an idea of like, well, people said they want iftar once a month, once a week. So why wouldn't we do iftar 4 times a week? Well, people said, they'd like Tarawih to be an hour and 15. They prefer it short than long. Well, people would prefer, I'm not getting to fiqh, but people would prefer 11 rak'ahs over the 20 rak'ahs. Right? Like imagine that there's a community that asks from their constituents, from their beneficiaries, what they'd like. That's the next level of really designing our Ramadans to be special. When we are able to gauge the pulse of our community and then start to make decisions from there. So go out and assess. You could do a survey, sure. You could do some focus groups, sure. But to me, you're really taking your institution to the next level if you do that assessment work ahead of Ramadan. Again, we have about 6 weeks, 7 weeks before Ramadan. So there's plenty of time to do this. Don't just get a team and start to go into planning mode. Go into assessment. Understand what happened in the past and what do we want to make sure to do this year. So that's step number 2. Step number 3, and I saw there's a question that came in. I will make sure to answer that question, inshallah ta'ala, towards the end, but I appreciate it. Step number 3. So after we've created a team, and after we took some time to assess last year's Ramadan, what we want to do, what our community is looking for, right? We're being intentional here. The third really critical strategy and thing to do to make sure that you're planning for Ramadan effectively is start to create a map of Ramadan. Okay? The story typically goes that most teams, even if a masjid or a center or organization creates a task force or committee for Ramadan, the first thing that they do, they start to plan Ramadan the first day of Ramadan. Like they get together a day before Ramadan. Okay, what are we going to do this week? Then the next week, they plan for that week. Then the third week, they're planning for the third week. Then the 27th night, they're like, oh my God, the 27th night. They're planning for the 27th night, the day before the 27th night. Like it's just kind of very chaotic, right? Chaos. Why don't we, as a task force, so we created a team, we assessed last year. The first thing we're going to do as a team is not to start focusing on the first day, the first week. I want you to map out the entire month. Put the 30 days in front of you. The 30 days are going to happen, right? It's going to be there, right? Inshallah, if we all make it through, right? We know Laylatul Qadr is coming. We know that your annual banquet or your fundraising night is coming. Like there are certain things that we know are happening, right? I want you to begin your planning by mapping out the first most important events into the calendar, right? So put the entire month on a whiteboard or on a calendar, right? Map it out and then put down what are the most important events? What's our most important events? Well, the most important event for us is the 27th night. Okay, lock it in. Well, yeah, we're going to do a big fundraiser for our masjid, our organization, the first Saturday of the month. Okay, put it in. Yeah, we need to do another fundraiser because we're strapped, or we need to do this, or we need to do that. Take a moment to put in the most important events first into your calendar. Lock those in first. I've seen masjids that are in need of funds in Ramadan, and they will schedule like typically the first Saturday is the main Saturday that every masjid is going to collect for itself, right? I've seen masjids that before they collect for themselves and they're in need, they'll put in somebody else to come in first and collect funds. Now, I'm not saying that that's not good or bad. Like we want, of course, most masjids open their doors for other organizations to come in. But if you're in need of funds and you're in need of the first collection of Ramadan, and people are going to be most motivated in the first collection, why would you bring an outside organization to collect before you collect? It's simply a lack of planning, simply a lack of taking the time to think about prioritizing what's first. First things first. Great book by Stephen Covey. It says, put and lock into your time, in your plan, the most important things first. Put the big rocks in first. So I suggest this to every team. Don't start by organizing, well, what's the first, we start organizing the least important thing first. Like, hey, okay, what kind of cookies should we have for the kids program on the first night of Ramadan? Why is that why are we talking about right now? Let's talk about, hey, what's the main khutbahs that we're going to collect for the masjid? What's the main program? Who's the main speaker? Who's going to reach out to the main speaker? What's our main banquet? You know what? When are we locking that in? What's the date? Who's going to be our khatib on the our speaker on the 27th night? Who's going to raise our foot? Like, think about the most important things first. Who's going to be our imam that leads the entire year? Who's going to be organizing the entire program of talks for the entire month, right? Like, I want you to focus on prioritizing and working on the most important events first. Map those in, lock those in. Then after that, okay, we know these big programs, good. Then the second thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to outline my day-to-day program. Like, every single day, as I mentioned, is a convention, right? So I got to take the time to think about, well, the amount of salah we want. What are the lecture topics we have? What's our theme for the month? What are the different segments of the program? Like, what are we talking about every day or every day of the week? Right? Who are the different speakers? Who's the MC? Who's making announcements? Right? Like, sit down and organize, just like an event. Your 30 days of Taraweeh are the main event. So sit down and organize the plan, the agenda, the program for those 30 days. Nobody walks into a conference without an agenda or a plan, right? But Ramadan is 30 conferences. So organize your conference schedule for every single day. What's the daycare like? Who's in charge of that? What's the teens program? What's the this? What's the that? What's the volunteer committee? What's the that committee? What's the reception committee? And every day of the main event, we're going to take time to outline that day-to-day program. What time it starts? Who's in charge of what? Right? Taking those moments out is really important. Then the last step here, fill in the other events. Then everything else can fit in, right? Anything else that we're doing, after we lock in the most important events and we outline our day-to-day program, then everything else can fit in. Okay, well, organization X is going to come on these days. Okay, that's no problem. Well, we're going to have a iftar on these days. Okay, good to know. Okay, these are the days that we're going to, okay, this event, that program, this initiative, whatever, fill that in at the end. But you've locked in your most important things first, and then everything else in the program can fit in what the end. And of course, there are things that can't fit in. And simply, we made sure everything that's important is in there, then we can adjust accordingly. So that's the third step here of planning and leading a really effective Ramadan for your organization. I'll take a pause to see if there's I don't see any questions in the chat window. And again, I see one question that talks about the importance of managing teams and their energy. So it's a really good question. And inshallah, I'm going to address that question typically, and I'm going to get to it here in a moment. But I think this step, to answer a part of that question, I think the step about organizing the month allows us to be very intentional where resources will be going. Right? So people get burnt out when we don't have clarity on where time and energy needs to be going. So hence, when we are using time and energy on things that are bring us less results or less impact on our work, then there's really important things that are going to take time and energy, and we're not balancing those things. Like, we're not utilizing energy correctly towards those things. That's when burnout a lot of times happens, right? We're running around doing everything. But if we took this moment to just map out our month and map out and plan a little bit more effective where everything needs to go, then naturally we're able to say, well, look, we need a team just for the 27th night. We want to make sure we have a team ready to go. It's going to be an exhausting, tiresome night. Let's make sure we got resources ready. Hey, every Friday and Saturday night, we've got to be on top of our game. We got to have extra volunteers for the youth program, extra volunteers for the daycare, extra volunteers for reception, extra volunteers for parking. Like, I know our high event moments are going to need more resources. So we're going to say, okay, let's make sure to go out and recruit them. Let's make sure and go out and get those Friday, Saturday volunteers. Let's go make sure to go out and get those extra resources, or pay part-time employees, or pay full-time, right? Get some temp or seasonal employees just for Ramadan. Like, there's a lot of ways, when we know that there's so much going on, that we as a team can allocate the resources to make sure, look, we need to pay for daycare. We can't volunteer it. We're going to pay somebody 30 days to take care of daycare. Hey, look, we have a ton of youth and preteens. We're going to pay people the entire month to do the program for the youth and the preteens, right? We don't want to get people burnt out. Hey, we're gonna pay for security. We're gonna make sure our masjid staff knows that their hours are gonna increase. Like, hey, come in a little bit earlier. You're gonna stay a little bit later, but we'll give you overtime. Like, there's a moment of saying that we're gonna allocate the proper resources, human resources, financial resources, to the most critical parts that make our work successful. And when this mapping doesn't happen, or this planning doesn't happen, that's when people get burnt out. There's too many people trying to do so much, and they're not thinking about all the different parts. We're not thinking about all the different places we need to bring people in. We didn't create those teams. We didn't create the task force. We didn't bring in the volunteers. Hence, there's burnout. And I think if we just took step 1, 2, and 3, create the team, assess, then map out, schedule, plan, these 3 things, inshallah, that will alleviate a lot of the burden that folks are talking. That's a great question. Let me get to step number 4, because I think then once we get into the momentum, here's some of the really critical hacks and strategies, I believe. And again, talking about the things that, again, I think a lot of times our organizations don't get advice on. I think the 4th and most critical aspect, because we can have teams, that's great. And then we can have plans, that's great. But then we've got to be able to organize and manage ourselves for the entire month according to those teams and plans. And this is where things start to fall apart. So to me, the 4th step is really about organizing communication really well. Because it's not enough that we just make teams and make plans. You've got to make sure, and to me, we can talk about how to manage, but particularly how to manage our communication of the work. How do we communicate? The 3 things that I highly recommend that every team does in every institution. Number 1, that they organize the times that they're going to be meeting. Too many times we just get into Ramadan and we're just like haphazardly meeting. Like, hey, let's meet tomorrow. Are we meeting tomorrow? Well, we need to meet. Well, we didn't discuss. Well, we didn't talk about. Well, in Ramadan is a hectic schedule. People are working, coming to the masjid, eating iftar. It's late at night. So we've got to be able to figure out, hey, let's lock in before the month comes and before the hectic time comes, when our check-in meetings are going to be. And I would say for any task force, any team, the overall task force should have at least 4 times, maybe even 5 times that they meet for the month of Ramadan. Like, hey, we're gonna have some specific times. We're gonna meet before iftar every Tuesday at 7 o'clock for 30 minutes. We're gonna meet. Hey, we're gonna meet. In person between Taraweeh every Thursday. So we gotta, whatever it is, whatever works for everybody, we gotta lock in some time that we're gonna meet. We gotta organize our meetings. Don't allow the team to fall apart. Just having a team doesn't make it successful. You've got to get the team to be managed and communicating effectively. The second thing is, make sure you have a succinct, clear communication platform. Get everybody, and it sounds silly, I know sometimes, but not everybody's on the WhatsApp groups. Not everybody's getting the communications that they need in the team. Not everybody understands. So we have a task force and it doesn't include the facility manager. It doesn't include the imam. It doesn't include somebody that's in charge of announcements. So the team is so disjuncted. Like, one team is talking about something here, somebody else is talking about something else here. Like, unify everyone in a communication platform. Create clarity and unity in the communications that are going out. Get everybody in one group, or get everybody on one chat, to make sure everything is synced together. And finally, last but not least, is have each team. So you as a task force, Each person has an aspect. Hey, somebody's in charge of daycare, somebody's in charge of security, somebody's in charge of parking, somebody's in charge of this, that, or the other. Okay, great. We have this team, we have this structure, but what happens when somebody has an issue? Who do they go to? I've seen, people, somebody walks in, hey, somebody's parked illegally outside, and some random person walks in and makes the announcement. Then the next day, some random person is announcing something else. And like, there's no clear communication structure. Somebody has a problem with the kids program. Who do they call? They're calling the imam. Like, what's the structure of reporting? Like, who should people go to? It's really important once you kind of consolidate your teamwork and your organization that you create clarity who people should go to for what. Who goes to the facility manager? Who goes to the task force? Who goes to the MC to make an announcement? Who goes, like, there's moments that everybody's kind of knows where to go to when I'm in need of something, right? So getting that out and communicating that to your teams is a really important step of organizing communication. It's not enough just to have teams. They have to know how do they talk to one another, particularly when there's challenges and problems that arise. So that's the fourth strategy. And I'll get into the fifth one, and then I see some really good questions in the chat, and I will inshallah make sure to address them. So now that we created teams, we created a task force, we created a team, and then we took the time to assess previous work, previous teams, last year. We've assessed our community. We took the time to think about what's worked, what's for our community, what hasn't worked, right? Then we start to plan. We start to map out what's the most important events, what's our main event day to day, what's our program like, who's leading each part of the all the things that need to happen, the different subcommittees, the different kind of programs. Okay, we mapped all of that out. Then we make sure everybody knows that, hey, we're going to communicate. This is how we're going to meet. This is how often. This is our chat. When you have a problem, this is who you go to, right? Like, we've organized all of that. The last piece is then now we can actually do some cool work, right? Because all of that is just leading and managing up to the point where we're actually going to deliver some really cool services. We're going to actually now create some amazing experience. And I think, and I've obviously there's many things that I'm sure everybody's already doing that's pretty good, but I want everybody to be reminded that Ramadan is the time to be dynamic in what your organization does. It's not the time to be average. It's not the time to do the same old same. Like, it's just like, this is what we've always done. It's actually a time for you to be more dynamic, more creative, more innovative. And some of the things, you don't have to transform everything, but in some of the things that you're doing to serve your community. Like, this is the time to show up as best as possible, as we talked about in the beginning. So to me, 3 critical things that can happen here. Number 1, we want, wallahi, the most important part of an experience is that the human experience is at a high level of professionalism. Like, people walk into your masjid or your center and they feel like, well, everybody's smiling, everybody's welcome, everybody's kind. And most likely, a lot of times, these are people that don't come to the masjid often. They've never come to the masjid. They just moved in. They just became Muslim. They're youth struggling. They're adults struggling. Just the experience of having a highly professional person that I'm working with, like, people are smiling, security is courteous, people are organized, people are kind, people are warm, people are empathetic, people are welcoming. Just those simple things that what we would say is, wow, this is professionalism. That creates an amazing experience for people. In Ramadan, it's much more hectic. So usually professionalism drops, but that's the time for it to be at a higher standard, for it to be reminded to everybody in the masjid, every staff, every volunteer, everybody's reminded, hey, look, we want to be at a high level of professionalism, and this is how. And we talk to our teams, train our teams, give our teams advice, suggestions, things to do in terms of what this high level of professionalism looks like. That's number 1. Get everybody to be warm and kind is an amazing way for it to be an amazing experience for people. The second thing is create unique services and programs. To me, and again, alhamdulillah, I've been privileged to lead a lot of these teams. I'm talking from experience of leading. these task forces and these Ramadan programs. The most unique offerings in a community is not when everybody's in the main hall and everybody's just, standing there, right? Like every child is in the main hall and everybody's like, those are fine. But really, when every segment of the community has a uniqueness that it's being served in. So you walk in, I've been a part of centers. Shout out to a few centers that I've been a part of and teams. Like people walk in and like, okay, well, wow, there's a great babysitting service, and they have a great program. It's not just kids in a room running around like crazy. No, they have a movie, they have arts and crafts, they have things that they're gonna do. They're gonna learn something. They're gonna like it's a intentional program for kids. It's not a just get all the middle school kids and throw them in the gym. Let them just kill each other. No, 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 no. There's going to be tarawih, and there's going to be a team that organizes them, and there's going to be a talk, and they're going to pray. Then they're going to play dodgeball. Then they're going to have some fun. Then they're going to have some arts and crafts. Then they're going to have a movie, like certain things that they're going to do. There's a program for them. Then in the main hall, we're like, wow, the main hall, just everybody comes in, prays, and leaves. We're like, no, 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 no. We're gonna have refreshment. We're going to have a strong speaker every day. We're going to have a great recitation. We're going to have a welcome every day. We're going to tell people this is what they can do. This is what they can have. We're going to do extra salahs after. We're going to have a Quran circle before Taraweeh. Like, we're going to have iftar on certain days. Like, there's a uniqueness to the services that we bring. That's whatever those things are for your community or your organization, whatever they are. But create some unique programs. Ramadan is a time to take a risk, to actually get out of your comfort zone, like try something new. It's okay. Don't just do the same old same. Like be unique, bring something unique to the community. People are the most engaged, most motivated, most inspired to transform in Ramadan. But a lot of times our communities, our institutions are not meeting the services that people need. So create that opportunity and empower others. If somebody comes up and says, hey, brother X, we'd like to create a dhikr circle or a Quran reading circle after Taraweeh. Can we announce that? They're like, yeah, sure, no problem. Hey, after Fajr, we'd like to do this. Yeah, but empower others too. Empower those that come to your community to take things on. It's an amazing opportunity to just be dynamic in what we do for our community. So I would absolutely say that fifth step is be dynamic, right? This is the month for you to be dynamic in the things that you can do. Step out of your comfort zone and try new things, even if it's one new thing, for your community to be engaged in the month of Ramadan. Inshallah. There's quite a number of this. I absolutely love, mashallah, a lot of great thoughts and a lot of great questions that are asked. So I'm going to take a moment here to try to answer some of those things. So first question that was asked, um, uh, what happens when there's a drop off in motivation and fatigue after Ramadan? Right. So what do we do after Ramadan to sustain some momentum? That's a great question. So this question is not about just in Ramadan, but after Ramadan, there's typically a drop off. Right. So how do we sustain that after Ramadan? So that's a great question. So I would say, number one, give people, Ramadan is again a 30-day convention. So it's an immense marathon, particularly for volunteers and staff, right, of all institutions. Absolutely give people a break. Allow people the space to recharge after Ramadan. It's the most difficult for organizers and committees. I've been there. Like you go through the last 10 nights and you sleep 1 hour a day and you're just functioning on fumes. You're going to work, coming back to the masjid, in i'tikaf, organizing this, iftar that, suhoor this, 27th night, 29th night. It's exhausting. So give people the opportunity to have a recharge moment. Like give people time, give your staff time off, give your leaders time off, like give everybody opportunity after Ramadan to recharge. But then bring them back. How do you bring them back? Some creative things that I would do. Have a thank you banquet after for your staff and volunteers and your donors. Have like a big thank you moment. Give out some awards, give out some like have an appreciation dinner, have an event or a meeting where everybody's appreciated for their effort in Ramadan. Bring your volunteers back, tell them, give out some prizes, like get people motivated by appreciating them. I think that's one thing to do. Second thing, towards the end of Ramadan, I think this is really important. Towards the end of Ramadan, I've had personally a lot of success with this. Try to recruit volunteers from your community. That's it. Again, it's peak season. The most amount of people that we're ever going to see for the year, they're all in the masjid. Be ready to recruit them. Like, hey, everyone, hey, community. After Ramadan, we have these 4 teams that you can be volunteer for: the youth team, the adults team, the sports team, the community service team, whatever. Be ready to recruit at the end of Ramadan volunteers to join you post Ramadan, right? Be ready. Tell your community what they are. Have people sign up. Follow up with them right after Ramadan. Meet with them. Engage with them. Bring them in. That's a really important hack, right? Because you have an immense opportunity of new blood, new leadership, new volunteers coming in Ramadan. Take advantage of that towards the end of Ramadan. So those are a few tips that I would say for the question of how do you keep momentum after the month of Ramadan. It's a great question, and maybe we'll have another webinar on that. It's a big challenge that we all have as an organization. Second question that came in: what if I don't feel that the board sees me or us as leaders, and I share a lot of ideas with them in order to plan, but they don't respond? So it's a great question. So I think one of the ways is a lot of times if you're a leader in your community and you want to help, sometimes, and maybe your leadership is not receptive to you, your board, maybe they're busy, they're caught up, there's things happening. What I would suggest is you try to find someone that you can talk to pitch them an idea. And instead of like throwing out a lot of ideas and a lot of thoughts, I would say take one project, one program, one initiative that you're really passionate about doing and work on it. I guarantee you, and what I've seen in my experience is that when people do something successful and they bring value to their community, I guarantee you community leaders are open, and I mean, most community leaders will absolutely welcome that. They'll welcome you continuing to do it. They'll support you. They'll appreciate you. They'll thank you. So don't be the person that just gives ideas. Be the person that creates and works like gets results, makes the work happen, makes the idea come to life, right? And you can communicate. Don't do it on your own. Like, don't just like, I don't care about them, I'm just going to do it myself. Like, communicate with them as well. Even if they're not responsive, tell them, hey, I'm going to create this youth halaqah. And hey, I'm going to announce it. And this is what we're going to do. And it's going to be in the month of Ramadan. And they might not respond, but at least I keep sending the email. Even though they don't respond, I keep telling them that I'm going to do it to kind of create that synergy. Most, again, when they're, okay, wow, 3 youth came, 5 came, 20 youth came, 100 youth came. I guarantee you, if you bring 30, 40 youth because of your idea, they're going to be receptive. They're like, oh, this is working. Well, then, hey, let's help this person out. Let's empower this person. To me, that would be my philosophy. So if I feel like I don't have a voice in my community and I'm giving ideas and they're not receptive, I'm going to tell them, hey, this is my idea. This is my plan. This is what I'm going to do, and just go do it. And unless they, physically stop you, and I hope they don't, success is the best way to get people to look at you, right? So take an idea and make it successful, whatever that idea is, in my opinion. A great question. Third question. I came up with a theme and a schedule for the talks of the main event talks last year. This person is saying, and they're saying that they're we did a tafsir, and there was some other things that they added. They want, but the masjid they just want prayer and an amazing qari. All the other programs, people didn't come into, right? So last year they tried a few things, and the community didn't support. Okay, so it's a great question. What happens when I try to do something and the community doesn't resonate? So first and foremost, ask yourself, because it's a part of that, I would say step 2, assess why did it not work last year? So ask yourself why. Why did people not be receptive to the programs? Why did people not come to the lectures? Why? Right? So ask yourself why. And really sometimes you got to unpack that. So why is, okay, well, why? Well, we didn't market it enough. We didn't organize it well enough. It wasn't real clear enough to the community. Why could be, well, we didn't ask the community what topics they needed. We didn't reach out to people. We didn't do a survey. We didn't ask the youth what they wanted. We didn't ask the parents what they wanted. Maybe we didn't take the time to assess what the program is. Did it match the need? Did it match the fit? Right? Maybe the why is, hey, maybe it was successful, but because only 5 people showed up, you think that that's not successful. But 5 people can be a success. If I create a halqa and 5 people come in, like, hey, we created a Quran circle, only 5 people would come in. It's not successful. But maybe that's success. Maybe those 5 people really did learn the Quran. Maybe those 5 people really did change, right? Maybe your measurement of success is your expectation of something, and maybe you should readjust your expectation. Maybe last year it was 5 people that came to this program or came to this halaqah or came to this Quran circle, and this year it'll be 10 or 12 or 20. Maybe you just need to do it consistently enough for it to grow. Like sometimes I think we feel like we give up on ideas. If we did the work up front and we assessed that it's right and we saw the need and we marketed as best as we like, as long as we did everything we could, and then people didn't come, but maybe we just got to do it consistently enough for people to be receptive to it, right? Things don't just happen in a day. It doesn't happen overnight. So sometimes we just got to continue to give the effort and the work, right? Particularly when it's important. So it's really important to think about, well, okay, well, do we need a youth program? Yeah, we do. Well, only 3 youth showed up last year. Okay, that's okay. 5 will show up this year. 6, 7. That's a success. You grew from 3 to 6. That's 100% growth. Like if you're thinking about it from that level, it's very successful. So don't always, I think we sometimes lack confidence as like organization. Like we're just like, oh, it's not working. We're not good. Nobody likes it. No, sometimes we're a little too pessimistic, in my opinion. Don't be like that, right? Like be positive, be proactive in your approach. If halakha 5 people show up, I'm going to give the best to those 5 people. 5 youth, 5 adults. We're going to give the best to them. There'll be 10 next year, inshallah. There'll be 20 the year after, inshallah. Right? That's really how communities work, right? It's tough, it's hard, it's a grind. Maybe we don't see a lot of satisfaction in it, but to me, that's how human transformation happens. It's in the quality, not the quantity